The Dark Crystal is better than Labyrinth. And I'll fight anyone who says different.
Well,
Just kidding, I don't want to fight you. I'm a lover, not a fighter. As if you couldn't tell by the puppet videos in the tea. Okay, so I actually don't want to fight about this one, but I am genuinely curious. Do people think that Labyrinth is better than The Dark Crystal? I mean, to me, growing up, I saw both of these movies, and they're cult classics, beloved films to me, both as a puppeteer and as a filmmaker, and just as a human being. I mean, they're incredibly fun movies to watch, kind of mind-expanding movies for kids in a way, because they took me out of my comfort zone as a viewer and transported me to other worlds, which weren't always comfortable. The first time I saw The Dark Crystal, I did see The Dark Crystal first, so that definitely has a bearing on my point of view. It was a copy I got from the library. It was beat up and old, and I was watching it by myself. And my dad walked in and was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's called The Dark Crystal. It's by the Muppets guys." And he was like, "What's it rated?" Which, you know, if you're a millennial, you know that's like a curse of death kind of line that you used to get when you're sitting around watching a video and your parents walk in. "What's it rated?" That means they're probably gonna turn it off. And I said, "Oh, it's fine. It's PG." And he said, "Well, you're watching it without parental guidance." But my dad's a cool guy, so he left me alone. Yeah, I really loved the world of The Dark Crystal and how strange it was. It felt like a foreign film, and not just in terms of there's some made up languages in the story. But also there's something about Ozzy Morris's cinematography that he achieved, and there's a whole technical article about how he did it in American Cinematographer from that time, which you can find on the Internet Archive. I'll pop the link in the description here. That just feels totally alien in a way that Labyrinth doesn't. The colors are like a little bit desaturated, a little bit muted, but also at the same time kind of vibrant and rich in an earthy kind of way. It's hard to describe quite what he pulled off, but it's a career crowning achievement for Ozzy Morris, who was a long-serving British director of photography, and one of the greats in my book. And I think Labyrinth has some really beautiful work in it too, but nothing to compare with Ozzy Morris and The Dark Crystal, in my opinion. And if you're wondering what it might look like if Ozzy Morris shot a more conventional Jim Henson film, well, you don't have to wonder, because you've probably already seen it, and it's called The Great Muppet Caper. It was a 2-for-1 deal with Ozzy Morris, as it was with Lou Grade, who financed both The Great Muppet Caper and The Dark Crystal. It's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. You get to make your experimental movie, but we also want to make a Muppets movie to make some money as well. One of the most common criticisms I hear of The Dark Crystal is that the world doesn't have enough depth. So I'm not like a sword and sorcery, high fantasy kind of person. I don't consume a tremendous amount of that kind of fiction. So stuff like Robert Jordan tends to leave me a little bit cold. Not because I don't find it interesting, just because I'm more interested in personal stories than in backgrounds and epic sagas. It just doesn't resonate with me as much as the story of one character. So, you know, if I'm reading Lord of the Rings, I'm probably going to want to follow the story of one character at a time. So like the arc of Aragorn, for example. is like an arc that I really enjoy in The Lord of the Rings. But the backstory of all the kings and all the stuff that happens outside of Aragorn doesn't really matter to me too much, other than how it informs the character. So, you know, I think that comes down to your personal taste. Some people want a really zoomed out, wide-angle view. And some people want to zoom in to the like molecular level and really focus in on one day in one person's life and be kind of minimalist. And I'm somewhere in the middle, but definitely more on the less is more side than the you know, giant sprawling epic. I have to say, I stand in awe of people who can achieve, authors like Brandon Sanderson are just unbelievable to me in their capacity for creating enormous universes. And hats off to people who can do that. But it's just not my cup of tea. But the Dark Crystal seemed to me to be of a higher standard, even as a kid. You can tell the Dark Crystal was a movie that they started and did a ton of research and development into. They spent a long time crafting a story and really building something. Whereas Labyrinth feels like a fun, you know, easygoing movie by comparison. The world is kind of less consistent, it's more magical, but it you know, it's a song and dance kind of thing with some mysterious fairy tale elements in the setting, and that's kind of the world of Labyrinth. Whereas the Dark Crystal, totally immersive. I love David Bowie. I think he's great. I think he's a great movie star. I think he totally deserved to be in more movies. He's great in The Man Who Fell to Earth. Just a great on-screen performance. Yeah, I don't know. I liked in the Dark Crystal being able to just believe that this world was out there somewhere. And in Labyrinth, you know, the real world, our world, is just kind of on the periphery, just outside the frame. And that's, you know, I'm genuinely curious. Are there people who prefer that? Especially like among puppet people who do puppets and play with puppets and love puppet stuff. People who, in other words, might be interested in this Puppet Tea video. If you're interested in this Puppet Tea video, tell me, which do you prefer, the Dark Crystal or Labyrinth? And yeah, let me know, because I am genuinely curious. So yes, leave a comment, settle the debate. Feel free to leave me your reasonings. I love to hear people's arguments. Be nice, as always. Treat others with kindness if they don't share your views. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe subscribe to the channel. Share the video, or share the channel, but you can't subscribe to the video. You can only subscribe to the channel. It's confusing, I know. If you want to buy me a cup of tea, you can do so at Buy Me a Coffee, because Buy Me a Tea doesn't exist yet. And Buy Me a Coffee is really great. If you're a creator, I highly recommend their platform because it's super simple, and I think they're better than Patreon, but don't tell Patreon that I said so. So thanks for weighing in on the debate, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.